This is
Silver
the
carp,
Illinois River
the
near
fish that
Starved
took over
Rock.
America's
In
rivers
the
in the
1970s, a foreign fish got loose in
entered
America,
American
swam up
waters.
this water, and took it over.
At first,
In some
nobody
stretches,
thought
it
it would
grew to
become a major
70%
problem.
of everything alive in the river.
The fish had
By
been
weight,
brought to the United
people
States for a
threw
practical
everything
reason.
at it. Electricity through a canal,
Fish
poison
farmers
in
in
the
the
water,
American
over
South
$1 billion
were struggling
on a
with
wall
algae
to keep
that
it out of the
constantly
Great Lakes.
clogged their ponds and
And
reduced
still,
water quality.
the fish kept coming.
So they
Then, a
looked
few years
overseas
ago,
for a
something
solution.
flipped. The carp near
From
Starved
China,
Rock
they
started
brought in a
vanishing on
fish
their
that
own.
could spend almost
Scientists
its
went out to
entire
find
day
out
feeding
why.
on algae
What
and
they
plankton.
found wasn't a predator.
That fish was
One of the two
asterisk
answers was
silver
something
carp.
Chicago has been doing by accident for
At
100
first,
years.
the plan
Go
seemed
back
to
to the
work perfectly.
1970s. Down in the
Put
American
the fish
South,
into a pond,
fish farmers
and it
had a
would consume the
problem. Their ponds
microscopic
kept clogging
organisms
up with
that caused
algae.
problems.
So they went to China and brought back a fish
The
that
water
eats algae
became
all
cleaner,
day.
and the fish
Drop a
appeared to
few
be
in a
doing
catfish
exactly
pond
what
and the
people
water
wanted.
stays clean. It worked.
But then something
Then the fish
went
got
wrong.
out. Within about 10
The
years,
silver
they were
carp
breeding in the
escaped.
Mississippi Basin.
Once
From
outside
there, they
the
pushed
controlled
up into the
ponds,
Illinois River
the fish
and kept
entered
climbing.
America's natural waterways.
These fish breed like almost nothing else in the
It
water.
found an enormous
One
network
female
of
silver
connected
carp can
rivers
drop
with
hundreds of
plenty
thousands
food,
of eggs in a
suitable
single season,
habitat,
sometimes
and very
over a
few
million.
obstacles capable
Now
of
picture
stopping
every
its
female
expansion.
in the river doing the same thing.
Within
They eat all
roughly
day
a decade,
too.
silver
The silver
carp were
carp swims with
reproducing
its
throughout
mouth
the
open and
Mississippi
strains
River
the plankton
basin.
straight out of the water. The tiny
And
stuff
then they
every
began
native
moving
fish
north.
needs, from the newborn fry on
They
up.
eventually reached
The
the
carp
Illinois
gets to the
River.
bottom of the food chain first,
This
and
was where
everything
the
above
real
it starts
problem
to
became
starve.
impossible to
You can
ignore.
measure what that did. The gizzard
Silver
shad,
carp are
a native
extraordinarily
fish that eats
successful
the same
breeders.
plankton, thinned out
A
fast.
single female can
Bass and
release
catfish
hundreds of
feed on the
thousands
shad,
of
so the
eggs
whole
during
river
one
runs on
spawning
it.
season.
Once the carp moved in, the shad
In
went into
some
decline.
cases, she can produce
The
more
carp
than
were
a
quietly
million.
starving the natives out.
Now
Give it a few
imagine
years,
thousands of
and the
females
carp own the
reproducing
place.
in the same river system.
In the central Illinois River, you now
the
get more than
population can
1,200 carp
increase at a
packed
speed
into a
that is
single
extremely
kilometer of
difficult
water.
to control.
You pull a net, and it comes
But
up carp, carp,
reproduction is
carp,
only part of
and
the
maybe
story.
one native fish gasping in the pile.
Silver carp
And the
also have
silver
an
carp does
unusual
one more
feeding
thing.
strategy.
It flies.
They
A
swim
boat
through
motor
the water
spooks
with
it,
their mouths
and a
open,
10-pound fish
filtering
rockets
plankton
straight
directly
up
from
out of the water, as high as 10 feet in the air.
Plankton may be
Now
microscopic,
you're doing 30 miles an
but it
hour
is one
down
of the
the
most
river, and a
important
fish the size of
resources
a
in
bowling
river
ball is coming at
ecosystem.
your face. The government
Young
keeps a
fish
list of what
depend
these
on
fish
it.
do to people. Black
Small
eyes,
fish depend
broken
on it.
bones,
And
concussions,
larger fish
cuts from
ultimately
the fins.
depend on those smaller
People
fish.
have been knocked flat in their own boats by a
Silver
fish they never
carp
saw
can consume
coming.
enormous quantities
Illinois
of this
couldn't
food
let it
source.
slide. The Illinois River
Instead of
runs north to
attacking native
Chicago
fish
and connects
directly,
through
they
a
compete
man-made
with them at the
canal
bottom of
straight
the
into
food
Lake
chain.
Michigan. Let the carp
And that
reach
can
that
be even
water,
more
and they do to
destructive.
the Great Lakes exactly what they
One
did
native
here.
species that
The
relies
plankton goes
heavily on the
first,
same food
then the
source
small
as the
fish
gizzard
that live on
shad.
it, then the salmon, the perch,
silver
the
carp
whitefish,
numbers
and
increased,
every boat,
gizzard
dock,
shad
and town that
populations
runs on
began
them.
declining.
A $5 billion fishery hollowed out
consequences
from the
did not
bottom,
stop there.
drinking water for more than
When
40
one
million
species
people
loses
on the
access
line.
to an important food source,
The state threw
everything
money at the
connected to
door.
that species can
In
feel the effect.
2002, an electric barrier went into
The
the
silver
canal
carp
about
was
37
essentially
miles
changing
from
the
Lake
river
Michigan.
from the bottom upward.
Then the state started planning the big one,
And in some
a
sections of
$1.5
the
billion
Illinois River,
project
their
at
numbers
Brandon
became
Road,
astonishing.
loaded with bubble walls, underwater
The
speakers, and
script
more
describes
electricity,
areas where
all
more than
built to hold that one choke point.
12,200
And the carp still bred
carp
faster
can
than
occupy
any
a
crew could
single
pull them out.
kilometer of water.
That's when people started asking a different kind
Imagine
of
throwing
question.
a net into the river
Forget
and
building
pulling
a
it
wall
back
against
filled
the carp.
almost entirely
What if
with
something
silver
already
carp.
living in the river could just eat them for free?
Not one or two.
The river actually had a fish that could
Thousands.
do the job. A native one.
The river
gone
had
for
become a
decades.
place where the
The
invasive
alligator
fish
gar,
could
up
dominate
to
the
8 feet
available
long,
food in
over
space.
300 pounds. Only the white sturgeon
silver
grows bigger
carp
in
have
North
another
American
ability
freshwater.
that made them a
long
serious
snout
danger
packed
to
with
people.
2 rows of teeth, diamond-shaped
They
armor,
can fly.
a line of fish that swam
Not
these waters
literally,
back
of
when
course.
dinosaurs walked the land.
But when
Then
startled,
people wiped
they
it
can
out of the
launch
north.
themselves completely out of
Anglers
the
and
water.
commercial crews saw a giant, toothy fish
Boat
and called it
motors are
trash.
particularly
They
effective
shot
at
it,
triggering this behavior.
netted it, and left it to rot on the
A
bank.
fish weighing around
Engineers
10 pounds
walled
can
off the
suddenly
rivers with
rocket
levees and
upward,
dams
sometimes
and cut the
reaching
gar off
approximately
from the
10
shallow
feet above the
backwaters where it
surface.
spawns. It had nowhere left
Now
to breed.
imagine traveling
In
down a
Illinois,
river at 30
the
miles
last
per
wild
hour.
alligator gar got pulled out
Suddenly,
in 1966.
a 10-pound fish
By
launches directly into
1994,
the air.
the state made it official.
There is almost
Extirpated.
no time to react.
Gone from Illinois. Still alive
People
down
have been
south. south,
struck by these
just
fish
not
while
here.
boating,
Then,
suffering
people
injuries
decided to
such
bring
as
it
black
back.
eyes,
In the
broken
late
bones,
1990s,
concussions,
the U.S.
and cuts
Fish
from
and
their
Wildlife
fins.
Service started raising alligator gar
But the
in
jumping
hatcheries.
fish is only one
Illinois
part
joined
of the problem.
in and began releasing young
The
gar
larger
into its
concern
waters in
is the
2010.
silver carp's
Now put the
potential
two fish in the
expansion
same
toward the
room.
Great Lakes.
A dying native monster with a
The
mouthful
Illinois
of teeth
River
coming
is
back to
connected
the
to the
exact
Chicago
river a
waterway
foreign fish
system,
had just
which
taken over.
creates a potential
People
pathway
did the
toward Lake
obvious
Michigan.
math. Bring back the biggest predator
If
in the
silver
river
carp
and let it eat
established
the
a
carp.
large breeding
The
population in
idea
the Great
caught fire,
Lakes, They
In
could encounter
2016,
another enormous
Illinois lawmakers
ecosystem
voted
filled
on the
with
record
plankton.
that the gaur was the one native
smaller
fish big
fish
enough
that
to
depend on
swallow
that
an adult
plankton could
Asian
be
carp.
affected.
Everyone had their answer.
Then larger
Everyone
fish
except
that
the
depend
people
on
who
those smaller
actually
species
raised
could
the
feel the
fish and dumped them in the
consequences.
river. The man who put those
The
fish in the
economic
water was Dan
consequences
Stevenson.
could also be
He ran
enormous.
fisheries for the Illinois DNR.
The Great Lakes
His
support a
crews
massive
raised the
fishing
gaur.
industry and
His
provide
crews released
drinking
them.
water for tens
And
of
every time
millions
a
of
reporter
people.
called to ask if the gaur was going to eat the
That
carp,
is why stopping
he
the
said the
silver
same
carp
thing.
became a major
The
priority.
stockings had nothing to do with Asian carp.
Authorities began building
never had.
barriers designed to prevent
The point
fish
was
from
to
moving
bring back a
farther
native
north.
fish that got wiped out and give
An
anglers a
electric
giant to
barrier
chase.
was installed in the
He said it
Chicago
as
area
plainly as a
canal
man
system.
can say it. The gaur will have
But
no effect
barriers
on the
alone
Asian
were
carp.
not enough.
Nobody printed that part.
The
The
silver
numbers show
carp
why he was
continued
right.
reproducing
From 2010
faster
to
than humans
2013,
can simply remove
Illinois
them.
stocked about 6,000 alligator
Eventually,
gaur.
people
Most
began
died
asking
small.
a different question.
Only around 1,500 grew big
Instead
enough
of
to
trying
survive
only
in
to
the
keep the
wild.
fish out, why not
1,500
remove
fish
as many
spread
of them
across
as
hundreds of
possible?
miles of water as a bucket of paint thrown
That is
at
where
a burning
commercial
building.
fishing became part
And
of the
even a
fight.
full-grown gaur can't eat what people
Illinois
imagine.
began paying commercial
grown silver
fishermen
carp is a
additional
heavy
money for every
foot-plus
pound
fish.
of invasive
A
carp they
gaur's
removed.
mouth only opens so wide.
This
It can
created
take
a
a carp in the
financial
first few months
incentive
of
to
its
catch
life.
enormous numbers of
After
fish.
that, the carp outgrows the gaur's
The
mouth and
strategy
swims off
changed the
safe.
way fishermen approached the
Biologists
problem.
said it for years. But the
They were no
Associated
longer
Press ran
simply
a story that
catching
went out to
individual
papers
fish.
nationwide, and the headline
They
sold
were
the gaur as the
harvesting the
weapon that would
population.
take the river back. The
Large
public
nets
locked
were
onto
used
it
to surround
because it's a
sections
clean
of the
picture.
river.
An ancient monster
Then
comes home
boats
and
moved
eats
through
the
the water
invaders.
and created
A boring
noise.
answer never beats a good monster
Silver
story.
carp have a powerful
The gaur
instinct
stayed
to
the
escape
hero in
approaching
everyone's head
boats.
long after the science said it couldn't
They
be.
respond by
But the
moving
carp
away
near
from the
Starved Rock
disturbance.
really were disappearing. The
Fishermen learned
numbers
to
really
use that
were falling
behavior against
year
them.
after year. Two other
Instead
things
of
were
trying to
pushing them
chase
out.
individual carp,
Nobody put
they
either
could
one
push
on a
entire
poster.
schools
The first
toward
one doesn't
waiting
have
nets.
teeth, it has a paycheck.
Thousands
Illinois
of fish
started
could
paying
become
commercial fishermen
concentrated
10
in one
cents a
area.
pound over market to pull carp out of the
Then
water.
the nets could be pulled tighter.
Over 15 years, that 10
The
cents
water
dragged
would
50
gradually
million pounds of
disappear
fish out
beneath
of
the
the Illinois
massive
River
silver
alone.
bodies.
Across every waterway
In
in
one
the state,
operation
nearly
described in the
78
script,
million pounds.
approximately
Picture the job.
asterisk
You're out before light with a
750,000
boat and a
pounds
net,
of carp
and the fish you're
were
chasing
removed
is
in a
worth 10
single
cents
haul.
a pound over market. You don't get
That
rich
is an
on one
enormous
carp.
amount of
You get
fish
rich
from
on
one
40,000 of them. So the crews
there was
stopped
another
fishing
problem.
like fishermen and started working like a harvest.
How do you find massive
You don't pull
schools of fish
78
spread
million
across
pounds of
hundreds of
fish out
miles
of a
of
river
river?
with a rod and a hook. The
The
crews
answer
used
was
a trick borrowed
surprisingly
from
clever.
China, the unified method.
Fishermen
First they
began
wall off a
using what are
section of
known
river
as
with net.
asterisk Judas
Then
fish.
the boats line up at the far end
A
and
few
start
silver
hitting the
carp are
hulls.
captured and
Remember
fitted with
what a
radio
boat motor
transmitters.
does to a silver carp. The
Then they
crews
are
aren't
released
fighting
back
that
into the
anymore.
river.
They're using it. The noise
Silver
pushes
carp
the carp
travel in
forward,
schools,
thousands
so the
of them,
tagged fish
pressing them
often
into a
returns
mass.
to its group.
The crews walk the nets in tighter and
transmitter
tighter
then gives
until the
fishermen a
water in front of
location.
the boat stops looking like
One
water
fish
and starts
effectively
looking
leads
like
them
fish.
toward many others.
Then they lift. One
But even
operation
with
off the
aggressive
Illinois
fishing,
River
the problem
pulled
remains.
750,000
The
pounds in a
fish
single
reproduces
haul.
extremely
Crews
quickly.
have a name for the next trick.
Remove
They catch a few
thousands
carp,
today,
bolt
and
a
new
radio transmitter
generations
onto
can
them, and
replace
drop them
them.
back in. They call them
So
Judas
authorities
fish.
also tried another
Because carp
strategy.
swim in schools, the tagged fish goes
They
straight
tried to
back
make
to the
people
pack,
want to eat
and the
silver
transmitter
carp.
tells the crews exactly where
The
the
challenge
pack is.
was not
A
necessarily
carp
the
leading
fish
the hunters
itself.
to the rest of the carp.
It
Then
was the
Illinois tried
reputation
something
of the
stranger.
word carp.
They tried to make
Many
you eat
Americans
the
hear the word and
problem. The trouble
imagine a
was never
muddy
the
bottom
fish.
feeding fish.
It was the word. Say carp to an American,
But silver carp
and he
feed
pictures a bottom
primarily
feeder
on
rooting through
plankton
mud.
rather than rooting through mud.
Silver carp doesn't touch mud.
The script
It eats
describes the
plankton,
meat as
and
white
it
and
comes out
mild.
white, mild, and lower
So
in mercury than
authorities
most of
attempted
what's
to
in the
market
freezer
the
aisle.
fish under a new name.
Didn't matter. Nobody
The
orders
idea
carp.
was simple.
So in 2022,
If people
the
would
state
buy
spent
and eat
about
silver carp,
$600,000 to
fishermen
give
would
the
have
fish a
another
new name.
economic reason
They
to
called
remove
it
them from the
copy,
river.
short for copious. Chefs
The
put
invasive
copy
fish
burgers
could
and
become a
copy
commercial
tacos on
product
menus.
instead of
The
simply
state
being a
figured
problem.
removal might pull 12 million pounds
This
out in
approach
that
showed
first
how
year.
complicated
2 months
invasive
in, it
species
had already
control
topped
can
10.
become.
That's force 1.
The silver
Paychecks,
carp was
nets,
not going to
and dinner
disappear
plates.
simply because
Force 2,
people built
nobody
barriers.
planned. The carp climbing the Illinois River
It
hit
was
a
not
wall
going
about
to
50 miles
disappear
from Lake
simply
Michigan
because
and
fishermen
stalled
caught
there for more than a
thousands.
decade.
And
A
it was
team at
not
the
going to
University of
disappear
Illinois
simply
went
because
looking for water.
restaurants put it on on menus.
They already had a clue. An earlier study
fish
found
had
the carp
already
near
established
Chicago showed
itself.
stress deep in their genes.
It had food.
The kind of stress you get from
It
swimming
had
in
habitat.
contaminated water.
It had
In
an enormous
2024,
reproductive
they took
capacity.
water from the polluted stretch where the carp
And it had
stopped
learned how
and
to
dropped young
exploit
silver
America's
carp
connected
into it.
river
In
systems.
clean water, young carp explore.
That is what makes
In this
silver
water,
carp so
they
difficult
went
to
sluggish
control.
almost the second they hit it.
The fish does not
Tori
need to
Susky led
attack
the
humans
study.
to transform
The closer
an
you get to
ecosystem.
Chicago, the worse the water gets. A century of
not need
sewage
sharp
outflow,
claws or
road
enormous
salt,
teeth.
and industrial runoff piled
Then
into one
smaller
stretch
fish
of river.
that depend on that
It isn't a
plankton could be
poison.
affected.
It doesn't kill the carp outright.
Then larger
it just
fish
makes
that
every
depend
hour
on
in
those
that
smaller
water
species
expensive.
could feel the
The fish has to
consequences.
spend energy staying alive that it would rather
The
spend on
economic
swimming,
cons for
feeding,
tens
and
of millions
spawning.
of people.
So it stops. Not because it
That
can't
is why
get through,
stopping the
because
silver
it isn't
carp
worth
became
it.
a major
The
priority.
carp turns around at the exact point where
Authorities
the river
began
stops
building
paying.
barriers designed
Illinois
to
is
prevent
building
the
a
fish
wall
from
against
moving
the
farther
carp for
north.
$1.5 billion.
An
Chicago
electric
built one
barrier
by
was installed in
accident
the
over
Chicago
100
area
years
canal
by dumping its
system.
filth in the river.
But
So far,
barriers
the
alone
accident
were not
is the
enough.
one that's working.
The silver
The front
carp
line has
continued
held around 50
reproducing
miles from
faster
Lake
than
Michigan.
humans could
A
simply
handful
remove
of
them.
lone carp have slipped past.
Eventually,
One in
people
2010,
began asking a
one in
different question.
2017, one in 2022.
Instead of trying only to keep the
Each
fish
caught
out,
within
why
7
not
to
remove
9
as many of
miles
them as
the lake.
possible?
Crews searched hard every time
That is
and
where
found
commercial
no breeding
fishing became
population
part
up
of
there.
the fight.
Single fish, never
Illinois
a foothold.
began paying
The thing
commercial
holding the
fishermen
carp back
additional
isn't a
money
predator
for
at
every
all.
pound of
It's a
invasive carp
paycheck,
they removed.
a dinner menu, and 100 years
This
of
created a
Chicago's own
financial
filth.
incentive to catch
The river
enormous
got its
numbers
killer.
of fish.
It just didn't have
The
teeth.
strategy changed the way
And
fishermen
here's where
approached
the
the
fish
problem.
ends up. Ground into
They were
fertilizer,
no longer simply
turned
catching
into pet
individual
food,
fish.
and a share of it packed into
They were
containers and
harvesting the
shipped back across
population.
the Pacific to China.
Large nets were used to surround sections
50
of
years
the river.
after somebody brought the fish over to clean out a
Then
catfish
boats
pond,
moved through the
river
water
is
and
sending it
created
home by the
noise.
ton. Except the whole thing
Silver
is fragile.
carp have a powerful
Brandon Road,
instinct to
the
escape
permanent
approaching
wall,
boats.
isn't built yet. The state
They
and
respond
federal
by
government
moving away
spent
from the
years
disturbance.
fighting over who pays. They signed the
Fishermen
deal in
learned to use that
2024.
behavior against them.
The first contract went out.
Instead
Then
of
the
trying
money
to
stalled.
chase individual
And even the
carp,
grants
they
that
could
pay the
push
fishermen
entire
got
schools
frozen.
toward waiting nets.
Stop the money and the nets come out of the water.
Thousands of
The
fish
carp
could
still
become
own the lower
concentrated
Illinois
in
River,
one area.
and one female still drops over
Then
a
the
million
nets could
eggs
be
a
pulled
season.
tighter.
Pull the nets, and the carp
water
come
would
roaring
gradually
back up the river,
disappear
and
beneath
the
a mass
alligator
of
gar
silver
is still
bodies.
going back in the water.
In
Illinois
one
stocks it
operation
every
described
year,
in the
and it's
script,
spreading back into its old
approximately
rivers, turning up on the end of an angler's line. A
750,000
giant
pounds of
native
carp
fish coming home to the
were
water,
removed in a
people
single
wiped
haul.
it out of. The monster everyone
That
wanted
is
to
an
save, the
enormous
river
amount
never
of fish
lifted a
from one
fin.
operation.
It just came home.
But
The
there was
people who
another
actually
problem.
raised the fish told the truth for
How do you
years,
find
and
massive
nobody
schools
printed
of
it.
fish spread across
If
hundreds
you've
of
seen a
miles
story
of
like
river?
that, where the boring answer got buried under a
answer
better
was
headline,
surprisingly
tell us in the
clever.
comments.